One of the trending issues are urgent high. Ghana Hanum say obi anu dem be from the grassroots to the top no. Cocoa issues are so. Abusia Nansentem CEO of Cocoa Board yera Randy Abbey. Na so aye she papa manfo gu so to the fact say cocoa farmers free November ABC February womi yentua wo mo ekaye enti wo ani abre na no na from the Jubilee House na ebeto odwa say yera ato forcing Dr. Kingsley wono na Ghana yesan na hene meche finance minister wo ba kasa e de afa cocoa nsensem we ya ekoso finally press conference na akoso amayera Kingsley ato forcing ababe kasa no mu chire mu say wo moye nhwehwemu for the past 8 years ana MPP aban no so no sin 20 ade ekoso wo Cocoa Board mu the new policies ni ade on pese wo mo de hihye so se de be boa cocoa akuafo a wo Ghana hanum sei no na kasa ni anase conference ni every year chire se be pie mu no na ye de bro ye fa we enter screens na so it is coming from the Ministry of Finance or say cocoa sector reforms for financial viability and long-term sustainability into proposed reforms not just say one more after the research ni ade no they say ginesi a omo hwa ebeboa ema the cocoa sector ni ejina brane no eno enye de kan or say cabinet has directed that with immediate effect the remainder of the beans for the 2025-2026 crop season should be allocated for domestic processing into na ye chirema cocoa na nkasa no ebi wo hono ma yento ye na no ye de ho update e bae we other platform no so na chese cocoa no first na say de na wo mo fa eton no a Cocoa Board for be kwa koton e de musika be kwa koton efi cocoa crash for no makoton ni ade chem se o man ye ne sa e na say Cocoa Board no so Ghana ye de no ye bo no wo soro enti omo nto enti ebi aka na no na ye ra case that to force chem se sa cocoa na e ka ye ni nyina no omo ade omo de awahye se omo be kwa process wo Ghana ha ya enti na mi lo no omo de be yo se de no be yo omo be process wo ha or say 3 cabinet has also directed that beginning from 2026-2027 crop season a minimum of 50% of cocoa beans should be processed locally enti said there omo say ni free afi cocoa a ye be dua ye bete wo krodua mu ha no emufa ye be export akwa koton emufa nso no ye be process wo Ghana ha enye say ye de be milo ye de be chocolate ede ye de be ye be ja no krom ha near their fanfidie mu amane aba out as a different product. Now, also the also pursuant to this, the state-owned cocoa processing company CPC will be revived as a matter of priority to become the leading processor of the cocoa beans. Entine enim no Ghana ha yewo edwumaku a na nko mo nso cocoa no enye se ni nyina na ye bekra de akwa amanone ebeje bi na nka first ni enso ye chocolate enso ye milo ye so ye niema bi a yetimi di cocoa eya se be nipa betimi edi amana ye yie no na ye wo dwumaku a na wo mo eye wo din na ye the cocoa processing company wo Ghana hanum se asa adwuma na gu so mu kire ma se wo mehye mu kena ama wo start aye adwuma or say I have only this morning together with the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry met with domestic cocoa processors who have indicated their capacity and willingness to process more than 50% cocoa produced in Ghana. International so woman enkofo a na say enipa kuo bi a wo mo nso mo adwuma ne say cocoa ni nko mo koto a mo nso de be fa mfidie mu adane no de aya ade foforo wo mo aye krado say e fa no cocoa a ye benya na afi fa na ye beja wa ha no wo mo de be fa mfidie mu asa kire ni e de aye niema a ye betimi adwusu e wo man we emu or say an agreement has been reached on the immediate implementation of this new policy into way nhyehyɛ foforo a wo mo ede aba no kyerɛ mu sɛ entiase aye adwuma ama wo nyina aye krado sɛ wo mo ede sa policy we ebeye adwuma ni nyina mu no we ba ya kyekye mu no Kingsley atofo sen Dr. Ghana yesan na hene wo no ankasa etu nenum tu kyerɛkyerɛ ensem ni mu ekɔ into details yenkotie eno nso.
A careful review of the cocoa sector over the last 8 years revealed gross mismanagement, which requires immediate and comprehensive reforms. to address the challenges in the sector. Cabinet has therefore decided on the following reforms to guarantee a fair price to the cocoa farmer, secure the financial viability of the cocoa sector, and ensure the long-term sustainability of the cocoa industry. To bring relief to unpaid cocoa farmers, Cabinet has accordingly directed the Ghana Cocoa Board to commence immediate repayment of all affected cocoa farmers. 2, a new Cocoa Board bill will be presented to Parliament to implement an automatic adjustment of producer price to align with movement in the world market price, exchange rate, and other key variables, and guarantees a minimum of 70% of gross FOB price to be paid to the cocoa farmer. A new financing model for cocoa purchases and related operations with associated benefit for increased processing will be introduced effective 2026-2027 crop season. The current financing model was invented as a necessity after the syndicated loan failed, after 32 years of successful implementation, and it was proven not to be sustainable. In fact, it has proven not to be sustainable. The financing model is entirely dependent on a buyer's willingness to bear the financing costs and to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa. The key motivation for buyers in the previous season was the rollover contract priced at a rate of $2,661 per metric ton, when the existing market price were above $8,000 per metric ton. Once the gap between the rollover contract and the market price closes, and the majority of the rollover contracts are serviced, the buyer will not be willing to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa crop. Alternatively, the previous syndicated loan model requires that Cocoa Board sells forward most of the raw beans to lock in the contract, which repays the loan and serves as collateral as well. This system did not allow Cocoa Board to optimize prices on the market. In addition, the use of raw beans contract as collateral for the loan meant that Ghana could not optimize its installed capacity for processing. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa beans to purchase cocoa. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa bonds to purchase cocoa and repay the cocoa proceeds within each crop year. The bonds will be used to raise a revolving fund for Cocoa Board to turn around at least once during the season. The model will also revive the indigenous licensed buying companies that have been completely thrown out of business as a result of the current financing model. State-owned produce buying company, PBC, will be revived to resume full operations and become the leading licensed buying company in the cocoa sector with immediate effect. With the new financing model, Cocoa Board can sell beans of any volume to local processing companies to promote value addition and job creation. Cabinet has, however, directed that with immediate effect, the remainder of the beans for the crop year 2025-2026 should be allocated for domestic processing. Cabinet has also directed that beginning from 2026 to 2027 crop season, a minimum of 50% of all cocoa beans should be processed locally. And this will be part of the Cocoa Board bill going to Parliament. Pursuant to this, the state-owned cocoa processing company, CPC, will be revived as a matter of priority to become the leading processor of Ghana's cocoa beans. I've also, this morning, together with my colleague, the Minister responsible for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, met with domestic cocoa processors cutting across the private sector, who have indicated that they have the capacity and the willingness to process more than 50% of Ghana's cocoa beans going forward. An agreement has been reached on the immediate implementation of this policy. In order to address the indebtedness inherited by the current management of Ghana Cocoa Board, Cabinet has further directed that the Minister responsible for Finance, myself, to urgently seek parliamentary approval for the following. One, to convert the legacy debt of about 5.8 billion Ghana cedis owed to the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. Cocoa Board currently owes the Ministry of Finance 3.7 billion Ghana cedis, which arose from the conversion of non-marketable cocoa bills into a loan, and the Bank of Ghana another 10-year loan of 1.38 billion Ghana cedis. The debt conversion will restore positive equity and boost the international and local market to support the operations of the Ghana Cocoa Board. This will strengthen the balance sheet, obviously, of Ghana Cocoa Board to enable it implement its new financing model and the reforms. Cabinet has also directed that, with immediate effect, there should be a transfer of road liabilities worth 4.35 billion Ghana cedis to the Ministry of Roads and Highways and the Ministry of Finance. From 2014 to 2024, Cocoa Board owed cocoa contractors. From 2014 to 2024, Cocoa Board awarded cocoa contracts of up to 26.5 billion Ghana cedis, with 21.5 billion Ghana cedis of contracts awarded between 2018 and 2021. Despite an agreement under the IMF program in 2023 to rationalize Cocoa Board's commitment of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis to 6.9 billion, the previous board and management of Cocoa Board failed to conduct this exercise. The exercise has subsequently been completed under the supervision of the Ministry of Finance and the Minister responsible for roads. The Minister of Roads and Cocoa Board jointly conducted this rationalization exercise to reduce the exposure on cocoa roads. Upon the completion of the exercise, the total exposure of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis has since been reduced to 4.35 billion Ghana cedis. Cabinet has directed that the liabilities of the 4.35 billion be transferred to the Ministry of Roads and Ministry of Finance for payment. Cabinet noted that road construction accounts to a significant part of the financial difficulties of Cocoa Board. And this is important, let me stress. Cabinet also noted that road construction accounts for a significant part of the financial difficulties that Cocoa Board is facing at the moment. Pursuant to the earlier announcement that I made in the course of last year, the new cocoa bill that is going to Parliament will now prohibit Cocoa Board from such quasi-fiscal expenditures and other non-core expenditures going forward, and it will come with punishment if they ever do so. As you recall, that I made an announcement in the 2026 budget that government of Ghana has secured a $500 million World Bank facility to construct agricultural roads, including cocoa roads. This particular intervention will take over the construction of cocoa roads going forward. To ensure accountability and transparency in the management of Cocoa Board and the cocoa sector as a whole, Cabinet also directed the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocoa Board over the last 8 years. And I repeat, Cabinet also directed the Office of the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocoa Board over the last 8 years. Cabinet has directed the Ministry of Finance to initiate also immediate reforms at Cocoa Board to streamline their operations and cut costs. Wasteful and uncontrolled expenditure practices are to be curtailed immediately. The world market price has dropped significantly from the average of 7,200 tons to 4,100 per ton, making Ghana's cocoa beans uncompetitive and creating liquidity challenges. To address this, the Producer Price Review Committee, PPRC, met this afternoon under my chairmanship to assess the challenges facing the sector and review the producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop year. In order to cushion the farmer, the PPRC has recommended that the farmer be paid 90% of the achieved gross FOB of $4,200 per ton to mitigate the adverse impact on as a result of the fall in the world market price. As a result of that, the PPLC thereby announces that effective today, Thursday, 12 February 2026, the new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag. This measure has become necessary to reflect the reality of the world market price of cocoa, ensure the injection of immediate liquidity for expedited payment of farmers, and guarantee the sustainability of our cocoa sector. In conclusion, government wishes to convey its sincere appreciation to the Ghanaian cocoa farmer and all stakeholders for their forbearance and sacrifice over the years. Cocoa has always been the mainstay of our economy, and wish to assure them that these reforms will protect the interests of the cocoa farmer and the cocoa sector. In fact, we strongly believe this will transform the industry. Thank you very much for your attention.